Hello, everyone. Most of you may know me by now, but for those who don't, my name is Anurag Dhawan, and I am the External Relations Officer at the University of Toronto Scarborough. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to yet another session of Hashtag. Moderating alongside me today, I am happy to welcome Amelia Helpod, Vice President Operations for TMG, the marketing group at UTSC. Amelia is a fourth-year student in the MIB program. Her past experience has been in strategy and marketing, and earlier in 2020, she returned from Sydney, Australia after completing a work term and a study abroad term. Amelia will be moderating our Q&A session. Before I introduce our speaker for today, a few housekeeping announcements. I request if all attendees can please keep themselves on mute through the session. We will have some time to take questions at the end of the presentation via chat, so if you can please drop your questions there. We are also recording this session, and the recording would be mailed out to all attendees. And now to introduce our special guest for today, Jayna Grassel. Jayna oversees digital marketing programs for enterprise-level clients. As a Senior Director of Marketing Strategy at Bounteous Canada, she works on e-commerce, financial, healthcare, and other B2B clients to design short and long-term digital strategies with a creative bend. Jayna is a trainer at heart and speaks at local meetups and national conferences, including MozCon. Her specialties include SEO, local search, paid media, and holistic web marketing. In her spare time, she likes to go fly fishing, volunteer on local community boards, and crochet. It is my absolute pleasure to have you as our guest on Hashtag today, Jayna. It's over to you.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining. It's hopefully a good, nice start to the end of the week here. We're also going to be pretty collaborative in this session. So I know no one has their videos on, totally fine. Feel free to stay off screen. But if you could get your chat up and ready, I'll be asking some questions throughout the session, and it's going to go a lot better if you contribute, participate. They're not hard questions, no wrong answers. So I have the chat bar up here as well. Amelia's going to help me out. But whenever I prompt, if you guys could participate, that would be great. So we're here to talk about best practices in SEO. Before we dive in, just want to give you a little bit of background around the company that I work in. So I work at a company called Bounteous, and we create big picture digital solutions. Essentially, that means that we do everything from designing websites to marketing websites to tagging websites. There's 500 of us located in 5 different offices. So I'm out of the Toronto office. I used to be based in the Pittsburgh office, moved up to Toronto last year to build out our marketing practice up here. But we're all virtual now, but we do have 5 main home bases, one in San Francisco, Denver, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Toronto, and then we actually have a new 6th office in Philadelphia. So we're always hiring. I think we currently have 31 open positions. So if you're interested in SEO, digital marketing, web development, looking for that next step in your career, or when you graduate, let me know. Also would love to connect with anyone on LinkedIn. If you're in this mode and you're thinking about pursuing a career in the digital space, reach out to me. Happy to connect you with my network, and we can chat more about some of your career interests. Here's a brief snapshot of everything that Bounteous does. So we do everything from digital strategy, which is all around conducting digital maturity assessments, telling companies you're very low in terms of your digital maturity. Here's the project plan of how you actually become a player in your industry. Our experience design team, I don't know if we have any creative people on the call, but this is everything from visual design to content creation to designing what Facebook posts, website layouts, homepage design looks like. We have a really, really large team of developers. So probably the majority of our company sits on the web development team. The coding team, they do all the JavaScript, all the Python, all the everything that I don't know, all of those languages, that's what they're really good at. And then I sit in this pillar here around digital marketing. So we do everything from SEO, which is search engine optimization, to digital media, to Facebook campaigns, even something like TikTok campaigns now. But our team is responsible for trafficking users to the website and making marketing campaigns to support our clients' efforts. And then finally, we have an analytics team. So they're the ones that tell us the performance of our campaigns and how we're actually performing. But kind of a wide range of services, like I said, over 500 people. So pretty diverse skill set here. A little bit about me. So I have a decade worth of SEO and search experience. I got a lot of my experience back in the States. So I worked at an agency in Cleveland for a few years. And then I was actually in-house as the SEO manager at Dick's Sporting Goods. I know we don't have them here in Canada, but if anyone's been to a Sport Check, kind of similar to what it is, but manage their SEO program. So if I use a lot of sports analogies, don't be offended in this presentation. Also have some Toronto analogies too, don't worry. But I am a senior director on our marketing strategy team. So right now I work with clients on a consulting basis. So meet with them and say, what are your digital challenges? How do you get people to your website? Is a Facebook campaign right for you? Or maybe we need to activate your email program. So Domino's Canada is my client at the moment. So really focusing on how we get people to buy more pizza, which is surprisingly easy to do during a pandemic. But if anyone wants to order pizza today for lunch, I know we're going to go until 1 o'clock here. So if you are hungry afterwards, feel free to tap in there. Like was mentioned earlier, you know, I am a fly fisher, been loving the Canadian fish up here, a lot bigger than we have in the States, in Pittsburgh, where I'm from. I am a crocheter. This is actually how I got into digital marketing, started a crochet blog and then said, hey, I really like SEO and the concept of learning how you can optimize content and it can rank higher in Google search. And I moved to Canada, applied for my PR, actually submitted the application last week. So hopefully be able to become an official Canadian one day here soon. So that's enough of the background. Let's actually get into the meat of the presentation and what we're going to be talking about here. Here's a brief agenda, a look of what the next hour is going to look like. So we'll be talking a little bit about what SEO is, how search engines actually index content on the internet because the internet is massive. My favorite topic about user intent. Not sure if this is a familiar term to you or not, but it's all around understanding the intent of users and actually how Google plays that into their ranking algorithm. Then we're going to dive a little bit into Google's quality rater guidelines, and I've linked the 163-page PDF in case you want to read it on your downtime. Good weekend reading, but if not, we're going to talk a little bit about it today, and then we'll just bring everything together. Sound good? So to get started here, search engine optimization. I'm sure a lot of you know what this stands for. I probably don't even have to say the full word aloud. You know what SEO is. But when I was in school, you know, we didn't know about SEO, and it's a very new competency where people are finally starting to realize that the internet is here to stay. People use Google, and you have to optimize your website for search engine optimization. So this will be one of my only corny SEO jokes of the presentation here, but you know, nice definition of SEO is it's witchcraft and wizardry that no one truly understands except the twisted souls who worship the Google gods. And I get a kick out of this every time I actually read the example sentence here. But could anyone, you know, maybe type in the chat of how you would define SEO? I kind of tipped a little bit of what we'll be talking about throughout the day, but does anyone have maybe just a sentence that of a way that you might describe what SEO is? I'll give you maybe 15 seconds here if anyone wants to type it in. So I define SEO as getting to the top of the search engines by creating content that search engines and users like. So yeah, you know, see a definition coming in here about using words and phrases to drive traffic on your website organically. Yep, 100%. We're especially going to be talking a lot about keywords and the content side of it. A little technical, but mostly on the content today. Yep, how to maximize your firm's search results. Absolutely here. So just an example to level set of what I'm talking about. Typing in the University of Toronto into Google, you can see the search engine results page here. And actually all of these are organic results. So it looks a lot different, and we'll have some examples later on here, but you can see how Google is trying to infer when someone types in the University of Toronto, what information do they want? Do they want to know the programs of study? Yeah, possibly. Do they want to apply? Of course. Do we want to get more information about future students? Maybe I'm an incoming freshman, maybe I need information there. Fantastic. They even have a news bar here. Maybe you just want to know what U of T has been doing lately. Great. You can see these very recent news articles from 3 hours, 4 hours, 7 hours ago. Even down at the bottom here, right? People also ask, is it hard to get into U of T? I don't know what you guys would say, but probably, right? Very prestigious school. You guys have a great reputation, but Google is surfacing content that they think satisfies the user's search. So not a lot here to go off of when it's just something very simple like University of Toronto. It's very broad, very generic, but Google is starting to show information to say, Based on this very broad search that you have, I think you might want to see this. Maybe you even want to visit. Maybe you need to know that we're located at 27 King College Circle. Maybe that's what you want. You don't actually want to apply, you just want to get to campus. So surfacing information here, but all of this, everything that you see on this Google search results page is influenced directly by the SEO of these individual websites, how much weight and authority that these individual websites actually carry. One of the most surprising things is thinking about how search engines work and how they actually crawl and spider pages. So search engines have web crawlers. We're going to get a little nerdy here for a second, but they have web crawlers or spiders that actually spider all the content on the internet, and they keep it in a repository. The reason why Google and Bing and other search engines do this is so that they don't have to go out and find information whenever you type in a search term into Google. They already have that. So if you search something like running shoes, they don't say, oh shoot, I have to go find running shoes content on the internet. They already have this repository of web pages and websites that they've crawled, ranked, and prioritized. And then that little bar, if we can go back to the slide, right? 661 million results in 1.09 seconds. See that at the top there? You'll never miss this. Whenever you Google something, you'll be like, oh, look, 1 second to return 616 million results. And the reason why Google is able to give you those results is because they've spidered and indexed the websites so that they know what pages are relevant for your search. So a surprising fact here is Bing is actually the largest search engine. I know, probably a lot of you actually Google, but Bing is actually the most commonly used search engine. True, just kidding. Google is the largest search engine. So sorry if I have misled you, but we all Google it, seeing in the chat about laughing. It's true, it's become a verb. So if I say Google, I actually mean all search engines in the course of this presentation, but just know, I think Google has something like 75% market share, probably everyone's grandparents that still use Bing or AOL or Ask Jeeves or one of those random search engines, but Google is actually the key search engine here. So we're going to come back to this in a bit, but even as we kind of dug into that first example with the University of Toronto search, keep in mind this example here. So I recently conducted this search, I'm sure all of us here in Toronto too did, where I searched heated patio, and just want you to take a look at this search page. We're not going to talk about it quite yet, but just get a sense of what it is. Heated patio, I was looking for a heated patio to go to enjoy some food on the patio, but just take a look at what you see here. We're going to come back to this, but I just want to plant the seed as we start to talk about content and SEO and user intent of what this actually looks like. But first, let's meet Googlebot. So I talked about those spiders and how they crawl and how they index content. So I want to give you a sense of how Google actually understands content on the web. So as SEOs, our goal is to make quality content and make it easy for bots to understand. So they are not humans, they are robots, they are spiders that go out there and crawl web pages on the internet. And so what we have to do is we have to leave little clues in the code of a web page that help our SEO and help Google know what a page is about. So I've called it here on the next slide, Googlebot food. So there are certain fields on a web page that Google spiders will ping to get the essence about what a page is about. So a couple of these fields are the page title. Page title is at the beginning. This is what shows up in your browser bar, but it's up to 60 characters, but you basically say the theme of the page, and this actually carries the most weight when it comes to optimizing a page for SEO. It's what is the blue link in a Google search page, what appears in the top of your browser bar, and it really is the most important way where you can optimize your pages by clearly stating to users and search engines what the page is about. Secondary, it doesn't really help with rankings, but it gives users an idea of what the page content they're about to click on is found in the meta description. So meta description, it's about 155 to 160 characters that webmasters can write in to say what the page is about. So in the example here, we have our page on chocolate donuts, and our description says, Mary's Bakery chocolate donuts are possibly the most delicious, perfectly formed, flawless chocolatey donuts ever made. Back in the day, this used to carry some weight for ranking, and so people would keyword stuff, thinking back in like 1994 SEOs, they'd write there of And I'm sure some of you have maybe found content online that's just over optimized and it just doesn't sound natural, where they say, are you hungry for chocolate donuts? Maybe you would like to try our chocolate donuts because chocolate donuts are the best. Stop in for chocolate donuts today. Not good for anyone. Search engines don't like it. It sounds trashy. It's not useful. And it's not very user-friendly. You don't get a sense of what the page actually is. All you know is that there's a webmaster who's bad at SEO and they're trying to optimize the page for chocolate donuts. So it's evolved a lot more. And this is even something that you'll see SEOs comment about, where Google doesn't actually take your meta description as you've written it verbatim. They might pull in other content from the body of your web page and instead choose to show that as content for the searcher. But the whole purpose of a meta description is to get people to click on your web page and actually come to your website. So I've even seen some big brands include promotions, things like save 50% off or free shipping or shop our wide selection, and then list some name brands that people might recognize to get them to prompt a click through. So next time you're searching, maybe keep in mind these two elements that you see just on that Google page. Be like, oh, this is an interesting page title. Does it sound natural? Do you know what keyword they're optimizing for? And then is that meta description helpful? Do you even read it? On my phone, I really don't. I scan and I look at the domains and I click based on that. But if I'm searching on my desktop, sure, I'll read a little bit to see if I actually want to visit this web page before I click. So think about that maybe the next time that you're searching yourself here. A couple other different fields, not going to belabor the point here, but different fields that SEOs can go in to actually optimize the content of their web page. So we're going to do our first activity here. It is very simple, I promise. No intense coding needed, but as kind of mentioned here, Googlebot uses all this information for context. And so having these different fields on a web page optimized helps Google know in their spidering index what the page is actually about. So I have an example here up from Wayfair where it is a coffee cups page where there's a piece of content at the bottom that they've written about coffee cups, about how these are good for your home, about some of the top brands, the different products that they offer. You'll see the title tag in here, Coffee Cups You'll Love by Wayfair. Great. So my question to everyone here is, if you are Google and you come across these different fields that you know that someone has optimized around a specific keyword, what search would this page be relevant for? I promise you it's not hard. Any ideas that we think? Coffee cups, coffee cups, coffee cups. What could this page possibly be optimized for? Does anyone think coffee cups? Yes, coffee cups. Very, very simple. So it's not hard once you see everything laid out. Oftentimes it's not maybe as straightforward as this, but this is exactly how Google effectively quantifies different content on the internet. So they first determine which search is best, and then they determine the different types of content that they want to show for that search. So kind of transitioning here from maybe the nerdy ways that search engines spider web pages to really focus on content and how we can make the best content that is optimized for searchers. All of us search, we all use Google throughout the day. We even use voice search these days. And so that's even a new type of content. But I just grabbed some images here based on different searches and the actual types of content that Google shows. For example, if I say, I wonder what neighborhoods of Boston there are, you can see that Google's pulled out this format where it has each of them listed separately with an image. Very interesting. It's not just a page of text anymore, but they're saying, oh, are you talking about South Boston, North End, Back Bay? I don't know. Click through to see more information about a specific neighborhood that you might be interested in. From a shopping perspective, the middle example here, told you I wouldn't include too many running shoes examples, but we have one here about the Nike Pegasus Turbo. So typing this in, I actually see shopping results at the top of my page because Google knows I probably want to buy these shoes. I might want to do a couple other things too. I might want to read user reviews. I might want to see if it's in stock at a store near me. But by typing in this very, very specific shoe name, that gives Google a good sense that I've done my research already for running shoes. I know that this is the pair for me, and I know that this is what I want to buy. They just are going to now surface content from the retailers that actually sell those running shoes. Tried to think of a stupid example here for the middle one, but just a how-to query, how to boil water. So Google is smart enough that they know whenever you type in how to do something that you want instructions. And video is huge, right? How many of us spend our hours on TikTok watching video, consuming video content? I don't have time or the mental capacity to read a 5-step thing of how to boil water. I want to watch this 50-second clip to show me. So Google is smart enough to know that when someone types in how to something, they want to know, and the best content and format is oftentimes a video. Finishing this out here on the right-hand side. So I grew up in Pittsburgh, so I use a Pittsburgh example, but what's the weather in Pittsburgh? And it shows it instantly. I don't need any more information. I don't even have to click away from this. I've even heard Google referred to as, it's not a search engine, but it's an answer engine. It's giving you the answer that you want, and you don't have to even click anywhere else. Same thing with Tom Hanks. If you're curious how old he is, he's 62 years old. Fantastic. So it gives you this information immediately, and you don't even have to go beyond Google. That's how good they are about identifying different types of content. Sometimes SEOs get a little too nerdy, right? If we're optimizing a page for coffee cups or something like that, and we forget how we search as users every day. So imagine maybe you are a mechanic and you sell tires. So you might think, okay, on my tires page, I have to have the keyword new tires because that's what people are going to type in to find out that they can buy a tire from me. But actually, more people actually Google how to replace a flat tire. So backing into something that you sell is also a very effective way to optimize your page for SEO. So instead of trying to just push your tires to say, here's my tire that I sell, you're looking for new tires, fantastic, I have new tires. Maybe you want to film a video of how to replace a flat tire that someone is Googling, and they'll find your content when they're on the side of the road. From there, they might say, oh, actually, your store is 2 kilometers away from me. I'm going to drive there and I'm going to have my flat tire replaced from these new tires. You were helpful. You gave me the information I needed, and then you solved my problem. So don't forget that you can approach it in terms of a solution or also a problem. Also thinking kind of technical versus everyday. Sometimes you're in your field, you're speaking very technically, so you know that you have a 250 gigabyte computer. I would not search that. I would search computer with a lot of storage. So making sure that you're optimizing based on the vernacular and just how everyday people call things is also important when it comes to SEO. So we're going to do a little exercise here, and I'm going to give you an example before I actually ask you to do this, but start thinking about themes and topics related to Toronto. All right. So before I actually ask, or if you have some, feel free to drop them in the chat, but we're going to go through this exercise here together. But Google actually thinks in themes and topics. So they came out with an algorithm update a few years ago called RankBrain. And essentially what this update does is it contextualizes things based on themes and topics, and it makes Google less reliant on specific keyword fields and more reliant on the holistic content and concept of a page. Now, what I mean by this is kind of a nice example to illustrate in terms of cities, especially one that a lot of us live in. But what kind of terms and phrases would Googlebot expect to see on a page about Toronto? So of course, we're going to have the actual word Toronto a couple times, but can anyone think of any places or sports teams or food or anything that you would expect to see if you read an article of kind of Toronto tourism? Think about this. Yep, so coming in, so Raptors, CN Tower, Nathan Phillips Square. What else do we have? Kind of Maple Leafs, Blue Jays. Oh, in all caps, we got a sports fan. This is great. Yep. So this is really going to test my skills as having only lived in Toronto for over a year to see how accurate I am. But yeah, so if Google is reading an article where someone says, hey, come to Toronto, you want to visit it, there's a lot to do in this amazing city, they expect to see certain words, not just Toronto written 500 times, but they expect to see different topics here. So here are the ones that I've chosen when I'm thinking about themes about Toronto. CN Tower, of course, you got the Blue Jays, you got the Maple Leaves. I included Queen West, like some neighborhood detail here too. St. Lawrence Market, even some politicians maybe perhaps, but all of these themes and topics are things that Google now expects to see on a page about Toronto. So it's a really nice exercise, and we'll continue doing this even throughout this presentation. But if you're writing about a specific topic, you're writing about Toronto, we do these exercises when optimizing a page to say, okay, what topic should I cover? And this happens pretty naturally, right? You're going to talk about the sports teams when you talk about Toronto. You're going to talk about the Raptors championship. You're just going to talk naturally about these things, but actually mapping this out to say, am I creating enough content and in the same themes and topics that Google might try to associate with this topic? And will this optimize my page for SEO? So rather than just focusing on one keyword, it's really important right now to focus on a theme rather than try to manipulate a phrase. Because if not, you're going to come off sounding really keyword stuffed, really unnatural, right? Visit Toronto and all of Toronto neighborhoods. There is a lot to do in Toronto. Like, nobody wants to read that. Google doesn't want to read it. Us as humans, we don't want to read it. We want to read themes and topics related to that particular phrase. So going to do a brief exercise here. And if you don't want to share, totally fine, but pick one of these. I have a political one here, 2020 US election, winter activities in Toronto, or small businesses in Toronto. And maybe if you could think about some word themes that you would write related to one of these topics. And if anyone wants to share something, I think even like winter activities in Toronto could be a great one if we want to do that one as a class. So thinking kind of similar to the Toronto exercise that we did, but what are some words or phrases or key places that might help group and optimize our page so that we can start to rank for winter activities in Toronto? So imagine your blog TO and you're writing an article here. What are some words or phrases that you would do? Skating, of course, yeah, ice skating. So maybe ice skating at Nathan Phillips Square. Absolutely, yep. The Christmas market, yes. So I don't think they're having it this year, right? But fantastic. Like, put that in there. Distillery District, Christmas market, come enjoy the shops, the lights, DJ skate nights at Harborfront, absolutely. Camping for the brave people, yep. Winter foods, absolutely, yeah. Skating at the Bentway, love it, yep. Going around, trying not to kill children as you're going around the figure eight, yep. Amazing. So like, it's not a hard concept, right? All of us were able to rattle off a couple different topics, but it's just a different way of thinking about SEO, and it's how modern day SEO is done. We don't have to do anything. I don't know if anyone's heard of keyword density before, but there used to be this methodology in saying you would have to use the keyword in an article or a video or whatever content you're producing, 5% of the time. And that was the right keyword density to tell Google what your page was about. But it's changed so much now, and it's really about these topics and themes and how you structure your content. Making sense? I'm imagining all of you nodding right now, so it's great. So kind of getting down into some of the specifics around Google's quality guidelines and their content rating guidelines. So you can see I've linked to this PDF down here, specifically pulling out something from page 68. And yes, I did read this maybe a few years ago where I was like, you know what, I am going to just sit down and read through this. But it's something that was kind of fun in the SEO world, where a couple years ago, Google quality rater guidelines got leaked. Everyone was like, ooh, look at this PDF that we have now. But it's essentially a very long PDF guide that Google has given to human quality raters, because Google does have humans on their team to go through. And Google basically laid out what makes a good website and what makes a sketchy website, and how they actually group content and how we should think about content. So sometimes people think about it and they're like, well, I can't be an expert on a topic like Kim Kardashian because that's a fluffy topic. But you can be an expert on Kim Kardashian. If you are a website that has the expertise, the authority, the trust built up, you can be an expert on many different things. Even personally, I'm a crocheter, and so I have a crochet blog. And so I'm an expert, I think, in the crochet world. And so even if the topic isn't something like an economics topic or a political topic or something around higher education, you can still be an expert in it. And Google's actually laid out how people rank and differentiate between good quality and bad quality. Very fascinating. So a lot of us do this as well. You get to a website where all these pop-ups are happening and there's misspellings and it's just a little sketchy, and you're like, oh, this is not a good source. I cannot cite this source in a paper that I'm writing. But other reputable sources and kind of the checklist of what makes a website or a piece of content quality. So specifically within Google Quality Rater Guidelines, on page 68, Google has actually broken down content and says all content on the internet falls into 4 primary categories. So it falls either into know, do, locate, or visit. Be interesting someday to get your thoughts on if you think all content on the internet falls into these different pieces. But just to give you examples of what these searches might mean. So know is something like the weather, like that weather search we did earlier. Like I want to know how to do something, probably the most common. We use search engines because we are searching for answers because we want to know answers. So probably the most common is this first one up here. Sometimes we use it as a do. So I want to fix my flat tire. I want to apply to a graduate program. I want to plan a trip. Like you're doing something and you need information to help you do that specific task. Sometimes all of us are just lazy and we actually don't type in the full web address, myself included, where I will just Google something and I will expect it to come up. So maybe I'll just type in Walmart, too lazy to even type in .ca, and I will just hit enter. Google pops up, I click on that first result, and then the Walmart SEO person thanks me because I have given them a visit from their SEO traffic sources. But sometimes it's just very, very navigational, or you want to find a web page that you visited, you don't really know, so you type it in there. Or maybe you want to visit something in person. So I want to get Chinese food for dinner. Fantastic. I want to walk to my local small business and support them. I need to know where they're located and how I can place my order. So sometimes there is that in-person visit action related to a specific search that a user is doing. All right, you guys ready for some more exercises? Is this helpful to kind of contextualize some of the things that I'm saying? So it seems very straightforward whenever we're talking about these 4 buckets: know, do, locate, or visit, right? You're like, yeah, totally get this. Like if I'm Google, I can maybe understand what someone wants whenever they type this in. So some queries are very straightforward and cannot be misinterpreted. For example, the population of Paris. If you're Google, you're in the background thinking, okay, what is the user intent of someone who Googles population of Paris? I kind of say this back in a sentence to myself. This is how I figure out user intent. So if I'm Google, I'm saying, okay, population of Paris is the search. The user intent is straightforward. They want to find the current population of Paris, France, right? Nothing hidden, nothing confusing here. And then they probably take it a step further and they say, okay, if someone wants the population of Paris, I probably don't need to show them a web page that says the history of Paris, that talks about landmarks of Paris. They just want a number. Maybe they're at the dinner table and they're being like, oh, I'm just going to move to Paris. And their friend says, you don't even know how many people live in Paris. So they've pulled up their phone and they've typed in population of Paris. And so Google knows that they just need to give them a number and give it to them quickly. So if I search population of Paris, this is what Google displays. Fantastic. 2.24 million people are in Paris. Thank you so much, Google. I don't need any other information. You have satisfied my query. You have known my intent and you know exactly what I want. So some queries are clear and Google is very, very good at these very easy to understand queries, but sometimes it gets a little more complex. So let's take a look at this. Kind of illustrating here the actual walkthrough. So imagine someone types into Google Mercury. What is the first thing that you thought whenever you heard that term? Some examples around here. It is a planet. Did anyone think of a planet when I said Mercury first? Maybe type in as I'm walking through the slide here what you thought of. Yes, great. We have some space people out there. Good. It is a chemical element. Any people in the chemistry field, did you think of a chemical element? It's also a car brand. I don't know if this would be some people, some people thought car brand, great. It's also apparently a very random insurance group. So there's a Mercury insurance group out there, and it is a boat engine company. I would be very, very surprised and also a little impressed if anyone thought of the Mercury Insurance Group and Mercury Boat Engine Company. But probably a lot of us are either planet, chemical element, or car brand, right? That's what I would say we land whenever it's there. And so others are a little less clear in trying to figure out what Google is going to show. So what do we think the search engine results page? You know, the Paris one was very direct. It showed me that example there. What do we think the search page is going to look at? Maybe think about it. Think if you want to type an answer, and I'll answer the question that came through here of, it's a good question because we do have a Paris, Ontario here. So how does Google know what Paris to pick, if it's the Paris in Ontario or the Paris in Paris? It can depend on 2 things. One, kind of popularity. So represented on this slide by the 4 people here versus the 1 person. So kind of the common interpretation. So if someone's typing in population of Paris, Google's like, you know what, like 1 out of a million people are going to pick Paris, not Paris, Ontario, as much as we all love the Ontario tie-in here. But they're like, yeah, the common interpretation of population of Paris is Paris, Ontario. Not many people maybe want to know the population of a small town. And so they do that. I would also say location. So if you're probably very, very close to Paris, Ontario, it might give that to you. I actually don't think so, though. I think it's just so common in just such a large city of the world that they know when you type in population of Paris, you actually want to know what the capital of the French nation is. Cool. So let's take a look at what this actually looks like. So if I typed in Mercury, again, 309 million results in 3/4 of a second, incredible. Thank you so much, Google. But Wikipedia page on the planet, fantastic. They have the knowledge panel, which is that big panel over on the right-hand side saying Mercury is a planet. Again, like this is the most common interpretation. So we're going to show you information about Mercury. But then you can see I also get information, the third one down here, of that outboard boat motor. So like, hey, maybe you actually want Mercury Marine here and you don't just want the planet. You can then see, all of the questions how down here too are around the planet, again, playing into that commonality. But it's really, really interesting. And one thing is actually interesting. So let's actually walk through this example here. Let's say that you wanted, instead of Mercury the planet, let's say that you wanted, I'm trying to go back here. Let's say that you actually wanted the car brand. You typed in Mercury and you get a page that looks like this. And you're like, shoot, I didn't want the planet. I wanted the car brand. What would you do to get it to trigger the car brand instead of actually the planet? What would you do? Yeah, search Mercury car. Not very hard, but it's just specifying and clarifying your search. So Mercury car, Mercury vehicle, Mercury something else. It's very quick. And it helps Google out too, because you say, hey, I'm thinking Mercury. Google's like, great, I'm going to show you space. And you get space and you're like, no, I don't want space. And you clarify it again. And they're like, oh, thank God. I know these people finally want to know about Mercury car. And they'll update the whole page and they'll show you information about Mercury car based on you clarifying your user intent just a little bit more. So it's interesting, right? You have user intent. In your mind, it makes sense. I want to buy a car. I want to buy a Mercury. I'm going to type in Mercury. You get there and it's not the most common thing and it's not what Google thinks. So you have to go in and clarify. And we do this all the time, right? We look at the first page, couple results. We're like, nope, totally did not get this right. I'm going to add some more clarity to my search to help Google understand what I'm intending to find a little bit more. Making sense? Cool. So kind of continuing on, the second piece about Google Quality Rater Guidelines is this acronym EAT. So EAT stands for expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. So if you want to look cool to all of your SEO friends, you can be like, oh, the EAT on this page is really good, or the EAT on this page is really good. So they've laid this out very clearly, and they've even defined what good quality content is. No joke, Google put a little scale in for their human raters to say, rate quality content based on lowest, lowest plus, low, low plus, medium, the whole way up to highest. They say rate it on a scale. And they've even defined to say that the highest quality pages are created to serve a beneficial purpose and achieve their purpose very well. So remember my example with Kim Kardashian, right? It might not be the topic that we all think about of like, yes, we are an expert about Kim Kardashian, but if there's a Kim Kardashian page out there that serves a beneficial purpose and achieves that purpose very well, that is highly rated content. So in general, quality content and how SEOs can make good content for search engines and their users is by making sure their content satisfies a user need. This is the reason why I think it's so important to start with that concept of user intent, themes, the type of content, and work backwards to say, is the type of content that I'm writing, that I'm filming, that I'm producing, is it the right type and format of content to satisfy this user need? And does it demonstrate expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness? If you do those two things, you're going to rank very, very highly in Google for the specific niche that you're writing about. It used to be about a checklist back in the days, right? Where you would say, I put my keyword here, I've included these couple things, but it's a lot more fluid these days because queries can vary by the specific search term that you're typing in, by the topic, by the industry, by where a human is even searching. That plays into it as well, which we'll talk about in a second here. And so Google's moved to this new model where they focus on providing content that meets user intent. So very, very central theme to our chat today, but focusing really on this concept of user intent and how it ties into SEO. All right, you guys ready for some more examples, some more typing? Yes, all right, great. So thinking about user intent and thinking that you're Google, who would Google the phrase football positions? I'm gonna walk you through this one first, and then we're gonna do some examples together. So I'm a fan of Friday Night Lights. Anyone else? Coach Eric Taylor, love him. So would you think that a football coach would Google a phrase like football positions? Yeah, I don't really think so. Like Coach Taylor is not Googling football positions. Like he is Googling something way more advanced than football positions. And so thinking about the type of user that is even typing these in can give us a clue of user intent. Someone Googled football positions. I kind of picture someone like this, who's like, oh yeah, I'm going with my boyfriend to the party. I want to know about football positions so I can make my one comment as I'm snacking on my appetizer. So yeah, someone new to football. This is exactly who is Googling football positions. So now that we've kind of understood the person behind this, it can help us match up user intent more. So what person, if this is our person, she's Googling football positions, she's new to football, what content does she want to see? What is going to help her make her search more productive? I'll give you a second here for the chat. Yeah, an image of football positions. Guys, amazing. You are getting it. This is great. So she probably doesn't want to see a bulleted list saying there's one quarterback and tight ends and running backs and defensive linemen. Guys, I'm trying with my sports analogies. Give me some grace here. But she probably doesn't want to see this. She probably wants to see an image with all the little guys drawn out on the field to say this is how many players are on the field at any given time. This is where they are. There's an offense. There's a defense. Here it is. Like this is what she wants. So yeah, if you're in SEO making content for this, then you're probably going to tap your design team and say, hey, I need an image of football positions because I know that someone very new to football is going to read this and they don't want a 500-word blog post about it. They want to pull this up, maybe take a screenshot, have it on their phone so that when they're at this party, they know exactly what they're talking about. Great job, guys. Great job coming together. So kind of remembering the marketing funnel and thinking about what you know about someone can help you decide what type of content you're going to create. So if someone is searching something very, very broad, they're going to be at the top of the funnel. So using running shoes as the example, if someone searches running shoes, I would probably put them at the top of the funnel. They really don't know what they want. They don't know color. They don't know brand. They don't know style. They don't know an individual product, like that very specific product I mentioned at the beginning. They don't know any of that. They're just like, hey, I'm in the market for running shoes. I got to do some research. So for something like that during the awareness piece, maybe they want a full article about how to know what your gait is, about how to know if you have a high arch or a low arch, and maybe the best types of running shoes relative to your foot style. So they want something a little bit different than if they're ready to take action. So if someone types in that very specific search, like Air Force Ones, they know what they want, they're ready to take action. I don't need to show them a blog post. They want an image, they want colors, they want sizes, and they want a buy it now button. So I can optimize that content on my website a little bit differently, knowing that someone has the intent to take an action versus if someone is just in the awareness funnel, if they're interested in something like right before they make that decision, I'm going to format my content a little bit differently. So kind of continuing on, skip a slide here about, this, going to pull back this slide, patio. So now that we all know a little bit about user intent, what type of content on here satisfies my need? And do you actually think that this is a good search engine result page? I'm typing in heated patio. I've told you my intent. I'm not building myself a heated patio. I want to visit a heated patio. So I see the places in Toronto that offer this. See a couple blog posts from BlogTO about map of heated patios, 20 heated patios, fantastic. Is there any element on here that you think is not relevant? That is not good content to satisfy my user intent? Yeah, the ads on the right, exactly. So if I were to click on any one of these, I would have to, or that advertiser would have to pay Google for that, where I'm not buying a $325 Uline heater here. I'm not doing it. That's not my user intent. But someone on the Uline marketing team said, oh, I'm going to bid on the keyword heated patio because that's what my product does. Again, a little bit of a disconnect between what the advertisers think and what Google thinks user intent actually is. And Google probably actually identified it right. So let's kind of go through this exercise one more time of if I did have a house and I wanted to heat my patio, I'm probably not going to type in heated patio. But what would I type in that would give me the kind of results that I wanted to maybe buy a piece of equipment? How would I change my search to maybe more clearly state my user intent? Any thoughts here in the chat? It might even be as simple as, yeah, so we have how to get a heated patio, fantastic. That kind of tips Google off of like, hey, I'm in the DIY mode. I'm ready to go to Home Depot. Tell me what you want. Patio heater, amazing. Yeah, that's a product. Like I want to buy a patio heater. Even something as simple as typing like equipment at the end of this, heated patio equipment, or buy heated patio gear, like anything just to tip Google off of like, no, I don't want to visit the Pilot or any of these other places. I actually just want to heat my own patio. Then they're going to show you different results. Very cool. All right, so let's do some of these ourselves now that we've walked through this. So let's think about what type of content would satisfy a user's intent for these searches. So just 2 examples here that we have. So if someone Googles utoronto.ca, what is their likely user intent? So this is kind of a tricky one to start off here, but they're typing in the full web address. What do they want? Well, I'd probably say maybe they want to log in, right? They probably just want to access something quicker on that website. And so I might take them directly to the University of Toronto website. How about if it's this search? So U of T Scarborough, a little bit different, right? They probably want to know about this campus. Maybe they're driving there. Maybe they need to go to campus for some reason in person. So I might show them a map. I might show them maybe a map of all the different branch campuses of U of T. So kind of thinking through all of these can be a really effective way. So kind of hearkening back to the Paris, Ontario example, I think this is going to be fun here, but we're going to walk through 4 of these together. So think about these, but I'm going to give you some information and then we can discuss the user intent and the type of content, okay? So type it in, no answers are wrong. Let's just kind of dialogue here as a class, but imagine it's Friday night, 7 p.m. Someone is in Toronto on their mobile phone and they search best pizza in Toronto. What is their intent? What do they intend to do 7 p.m. on a Friday night? Yes, order pizza for a party, buy pizza, get pizza delivery, not complex. Yeah, they are hungry. This is a hungry person, probably searching angrily, a little hangry. They want a pizza from Toronto. So if you're going to show them. I'd say they probably would want to see some like deals for local pizza, a map. Yep, you guys are coming in, a map of restaurants, map of pizza places, exactly. So Google would probably show the map similar to what they showed of the Pilot, but all the pizza places around me because they physically know where I am and they physically know that like I want pizza in Toronto and I want it now and I probably want it in the next half hour. So they're going to give me all that information to make a decision. Fantastic. All right, how about this one? So it's January 14th, 2019. Someone searches Scotiabank Arena. They're on their phone and it's noon. What do you think the user intent is of this if they search this on their phones? Yep, gamer event times at the arena, Raptors tickets. Yep. So, you know, the Raptors are playing at this point in time. You know that the person is very, very close to the Scotiabank Arena. I might even say like walking directions. You know, maybe they don't know where it is, but they're close and it's like right around game time. And so they're like, oh, yeah, I want to figure out how I get to the stadium. Maybe they're new to the city or something, but they Google this. Google knows that they're on their mobile device. They're very close to the stadium. They're either going to the game in an hour or they're figuring out how to get tickets for that game that night. Yep, great one. All right, how about this one? So Thursday, October 29th, 2020. So today, the Raptors are not playing right now. Someone searches Toronto Raptors, okay, from their desktop. Maybe it's an old person, I don't know. And they are located in New York City. So changing a couple of the parameters here, what is the intent of someone in New York City today Googling Toronto Raptors? Is it the same or is it different from the example that we just did? Same or different? Yeah, got an answer here. Want to know more about the team? Totally different. Yep. So based on the location, based on the time, yep, got a comment here. Maybe they want Raptors tickets for later this year. They're making travel plans. Absolutely. So Google's not going to show them walking directions to Scotiabank Arena if you're in New York, Googling during a non-game time. Even the fact that the Raptors aren't playing right now, like Google's not going to show the most recent score probably. They're going to give team information. They're going to take a look and say, okay, what was maybe the most recent game that the Raptors played? What was the score? Maybe they're having a conversation about it, but they're not showing up with tickets expecting to see a basketball game. They're not even in the right country. So Google knows all of this and they factor this in. So what someone gets for that result is going to be different than what someone would get, even probably searching here in Toronto. If all of us did this, it's going to be completely different. All right, one more here. So imagine it's August, a couple months ago, and someone Googles peppermint. We'll keep two of the parameters the same here. So they're in New York City, they're on their desktop, and they Google peppermint. This is a tough one. What do you think, without cheating, without Googling this yourself? But if someone Googles peppermint, what is their intent? It's a very random term. What is their intent? All right, Erica, listing out growing a peppermint plant at home. Yep, all of us have kind of gotten into plants during the pandemic. I know I have. Toothpaste or gum. Yep, maybe they're interested in the flavoring. Maybe they're cooking. Maybe they want to buy something. Maybe they're trying to figure out the difference between peppermint versus spearmint. Ooh, Christmas, getting ready for presents, the candy. Oh, the peppermint. Yeah. So maybe some candy. So this is actually a bit of a tricky one here. Let me show you what this looks like. But peppermint is actually a movie. And so if you Google peppermint, you can test me on this, guys. Feel free to pull out your phones on it. But 81 million results in under a second here for peppermint. But because this film came out in 2018, Google has said if someone just Googles this very, very random term of peppermint, they probably want information about the movie. Kind of interesting, right? Again, going back to our Mercury example, if someone's going to have to clarify to say peppermint the plant, or how do I get peppermint toothpaste, right? You're going to have to add more to your search query because now that there's this action thriller movie that came out, that is going to probably take over the search results page. So this is always changing. It's never set in stone. Yep, it's a horrible movie, right? No one's even going to want to watch this, although 91% of people like this film, so you never know. But it has such a prominent place now on such a generic term that this is what the search engine page looks like now. So I know we're kind of getting close to the end here, so just tying this all together, and then we'll leave about 5 minutes for questions, but want to leave you guys with this. Remember how Google crawls websites and how they index content and how they think about content. Remember our acronym here of EAT, so expertise, authority, trustworthiness. Combine that all together so that you can optimize web content for SEO. Think about user intent. Think about how it depends. Those couple examples that we did at the end there, I wanted to leave you with. It depends on what location you're at, what device you're searching on, type of the year, current events like that movie. Like everything funnels into how the user intent can change over time. But think if you're optimizing and you're trying to apply SEO best practices, think about user intent, then create the type of content to satisfy that need. All right, so let's stay connected. I put my information up here. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter. Please reach out to me with any of these and we'll open up the chat. So if you have any burning SEO questions, anything that you want some clarity on about what we talked about, or anything that you're just thinking about, please let's open it up. We have 5 minutes here for discussion. So happy to chat a little bit more.
So it looks like we're getting a couple people typing in the chat.
Great.
There's a few questions. So Erica's just asking, what does organic mean?
Yeah, so the difference is, so the O is search engine optimization, but I also kind of remember it like organic, meaning that you don't pay for these results, which is also why SEO is a little bit hard. So remember the ads example? Let me flip back to it up here. All of these ads, they're pay-per-click models. So brands actually say, I will pay to be in these paid search results, versus organic ones are over here. So probably a lot of us do this by default. I think just because I work in the industry, I never click on ads. I'm just like, oh, skeptical, because back in the day, they used to be a little spammy, and I would trust the organic one. So it means based on how well someone has optimized a web page, based on how relevant, how authoritative, how their content satisfies user intent. That's like the organic side of it, where Blog TO, they can't pay to be in this spot. So that's an organic spot that they have, which is why I think SEO is so fascinating. You can't buy your way to the top like you can in paid search. It's all about how well you understand content, and the technical side of SEO determines how you rank organically. So that's where the phrase comes from. Good question.
Awesome. So then one more question from Andrea. So now more than ever, jobs require some level of digital marketing. So how might you recommend that as students we gain more experience in this field?
Totally. Yeah, great question. Two things come to mind. One, I would say if you have something that you're interested in, all of us are experts in one field or another, start a blog and just start talking about it. It gives you really good experience even in the digital space of the web fields, the content, digital analytics, and it gives you something to talk about in that first interview that you're having. Mine was my crochet blog. It's very small, but a lot of people who crochet are horrible at SEO, so I can rank for some things. But even just having that experience, I was like, yeah, you know, and I optimize my blog, and I have a YouTube channel that I optimize and figure out how it ties in, and just some experience to contextualize all the really great stuff that you guys are learning beyond maybe what you're able to just pick up in class and these seminars and these courses. I would also say an internship. So there's a lot of businesses out there that don't know a lot about digital marketing. So if you volunteer, even just say, hey, I'd love to do your digital marketing for 8 hours a week. I'll read about SEO, I'll learn about it, I'll optimize pages. That's a great way to just get your hands dirty and your feet wet a little bit and see if you like SEO and digital marketing and see if the space is for you.
That's super helpful. Really quickly, the last question that I'm going to ask is just, what do you see as the biggest change or advancement in the next 10 years in terms of the digital marketing space?
Yeah, wow, really good question here. Two things. I would say there's going to be a lot more machine learning where content is just going to happen almost automatically, or this user intent piece is going to get a lot smarter. And so companies and agencies and people are going to have to realize and kind of take some of the inputs that the machine learning and the artificial intelligence, some of those algorithms that they can afford. And I also think we're also just going to start searching differently. I search in my car now. I search on my Google Home. It'll like start activating if I talk about it, or on my phone. Like, we all search differently than we did even 2 years ago. And so I think just the different mediums and the different formats and the different technologies that come out are going to help us all think about search and digital a little bit differently. Great question.
Awesome. So getting really close to 1 p.m. right now, I just wanted to finish off by saying a huge thank you to you, Jayna, for taking the time out of your day to be with us. I definitely think that we're all walking away from this session with a better understanding of SEO. So I just want to pass it back to Anurag to close off the session. But thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Amelia, and thank you, Jayna. I will now never forget, Google is the largest search engine, not Bing. But this was a very, very insightful session, and obviously a very interactive one. Like, the chat notifications have been totally off the hook, so that's amazing. Always a great sign. So thank you. It was awesome. Thank you for taking the time out. Before we close, any last words, Jayna?
No, this is it. I'm just really excited for you guys. It's such a cool field, and even the fact that you've taken the initiative to learn more about SEO and maybe picked up some phrases or one topic, you're already ahead of the game, and just really, really excited for how you guys are going to continue in your learning and education and how we're going to change the internet, right? So thanks again for having me. Really appreciate it.
Fantastic. Thank you. And thanks to everyone else who joined us today. We hope to see you at our last hashtag event of 2020 on December 3rd. Have a great rest of the day.
Bye.